Dear students, good morning to all. I invite all of you for this presentation lecture. I introduce myself. I am Dr. R. SINGARAVEL, Professor from the Department of Soil Science and Agricultural Chemistry, Faculty of Agriculture, ANNAMALAI University. In this video class, we will see about soil, the rocks, classification of rocks, and then composition of the earth crust. Soil, there are so many definitions available for soil. It differs from person to person. For a layman, for an agriculturist, it is in which he can grow crops. For an housewife, it is the soil in which she can cultivate kitchen garden or vegetable. For an engineer, it is the strata in which he constructs roads, dams, bridges and houses. So it varies. For soil scientists, the definition given by Joffre is most accepted. So according to him, soil is a natural dynamic body of mineral and organic constituents differentiated into horizons which differ among themselves as well as from the underlying parent material in morphology, physical makeup, chemical composition and biological properties. When you look into the definition of the soil, you can infer many things and is also self-explanatory for the agriculture graduates. Soil is formed by nature from the rocks. So as a word, it is derived from nature and it is a dynamic body. It keeps on changing because we add organic matter, fertilizer, we add so many inputs to the soil. So it is a dynamic body made up of mineral and organic constituents. Mineral is the from the rocks we get minerals, and organic constituents is all the leaf residues, waste which are being added to the soil. So because of which, when you open the soil, we can see many horizons. The horizontal section of the soil is called as the horizon, and then vertical section of the soil from the topsoil to the bedrock is called as the profile. So when you look into the profile, we can differentiate so many horizons which based on the color or texture or structure or the makeup. So it is a natural dynamic body made up of mineral and organic constituent differentiated into horizons which differ among themselves. Each and every horizon, each differs. When you see here, profile is a vertical section and it differs from each other. Each and every horizon, it differs. It differs from each other as well as from the underlying parent material. Parent material is the one unconsolidated debris of mass mineral matter lying above the bedrock. So the soil is presumed to be formed from the bedrock by weathering process. In subsequent classes, we will be going to see how the weathering occurs, how the soil is formed. So from the underlying bedrock or parent material, these horizons differs in morphology. Say for example, external appearance or morphology, physical makeup. Each horizon is made different material, chemical composition and biological property. So this definition encompasses or gives importance for all the features starting from its dynamic nature, forming of origin and its constituents, properties, everything. So it is the most accepted definition for soil. So soil, as I said, is derived from the parent rock material. So the parent rock or the rock material which on disintegration produces soil. So it takes millions of years to develop into a good soil, hundreds, thousands of years to develop an inch of soil. So rocks, first we will see basic about rocks. So rocks are defined as mass of mineral matter. So, you know mineral matter is when the molten magma erupt, when the minerals are formed by nature. Say for example, I will tell you an example for mineral matter, iron oxide Fe2O3. So, it contains iron and oxygen. Another example, silica, simple example I am telling, silica SiO2, the minerals are the elements are silica and oxygen. So, rocks may be defined as mass of mineral matter. So, the rocks, when the molten magma cools, when it solidifies into rock, the various elements present in the molten magma, they aggregate depending upon the natural affinity among themselves and forms different minerals like quartz, feldspar, pyroxene, amphibole, etc. So, rocks may be defined as mass of mineral matter. It is composed of one or more minerals. So, rock is made up of one or more minerals. Some rocks are hard and compact. You know granite. Granite is the one which is used for laying roads. You might come across this granite. So, which you can feel very hard. Basalt is another example for hard and compact rock. While some other rocks are loose and feebly aggregated, say for example sandstone. So, sand, you know, it is aggregates of sand. Sand is a loose particle, loose material, feebly aggregated is called as sandstone and loose sand. Each and every rock possesses certain characteristics by which we can identify the rocks. Say for example, they differ in the structure, color, specific gravity, cleavage, mineralogical makeup, and these are all the properties by which we can identify the rocks. Now, we will see how the rocks are classified. Rocks are divided into three main major classes according to the origin or mode of formation, how they origin, how the formation occurs, by which the rocks are classified into 1. Igneous rock, 2. Sedimentary rock, and 3. Metamorphic rock. Igneous rock, these are the rocks which were first formed when the molten magma got poured out on the earth surface and got solidified. These rocks, you can see these rocks were the first to be formed when the molten magma cooled and consolidated into solid rocks. The rocks, as I said already, when you go deeper into the earth, earth is the planet in which soil occurs, in which living organism occurs. So, it is a planet wherein we get air and water. So, life is possible. So, soil is the one which occurs in the earth. When you go deeper into the earth, it is under the condition of hot molten mass, liquid hot molten mass with very high temperature. Everything is in fluid condition. So, when the magma erupt, this molten magma comes out and is poured out on the surface of the earth. Because of the temperature difference inside and outside, because of the atmospheric temperature, they got cooled and they become consolidated to form solid rock. So, the rocks which were formed from the consolidation of molten mass or molten magma is called the igneous rock. These are the first formed rocks. The igneous rock constitute about 90% of the earth crust. In the earth crust, the major dominant rock we come across is igneous rock. 95% is its constitution, and it is about 10 miles in thickness. These rocks are mostly crystalline, and so they are also called as crystalline rocks. Igneous rocks are therefore also called as the crystalline rocks. They occur in big massive rocks. So they are also called as massive rocks. The other name for igneous rocks are crystalline rocks and massive rocks. Igneous rocks consist mainly of primary minerals. So primary minerals example quartz, feldspar, pyroxene, amphiboles, mica, these are all the primary minerals. So igneous rock, as they are first formed rocks, they are dominant in primary minerals. These igneous rocks are divided into three major groups based on the mode of formation or the occurrence. One is extrusive rock, two is intrusive rock, three is plutonic rock. So what is the meaning of extrusive rock? The words say X means out. So extrusive rocks, these are the rocks which were formed when the molten magma solidified above the surface of the earth crust. So when the molten magma is solidified above the earth surface, then it is called as the extrusive rocks. X means out. Those rocks that were formed when the molten mass was poured out on the surface of the earth where it consolidated on cooling. So such of those rocks were called as extrusive rocks. Example for extrusive rocks, most of the volcanic origin, rocks of volcanic origin, rhyolite, trachyte, dolerite, basalt are examples for extrusive rock. The second one, intrusive rocks. In means inside. The solidification of magma occurs below the surface of the earth. So when the solidification of magma or the consolidation of the magma occurs below the surface of the earth crust, then it is called as the intrusive rocks. Rocks that were formed when the molten mass was cooled and consolidated beneath the surface is called as the intrusive rocks. Third one is plutonic rock. Plutonic rock, among the intrusive rock, when the consolidation occurs at a much greater depth, very deep depth, then it is called as a plutonic rock. Example, granite, cyanite, diorite, gabbro. So when the solidification occurs at a shallow depth, then it is called as the hypabyzal rock. So thus the rocks are classified into extrusive, intrusive and plutonic rocks. Again, these igneous rocks, according to the content of silica, they are classified into four categories. One is acid rock or acid igneous rock, which contain greater than 65% of silica. This is very important, 65% of silica. Then example for acid igneous rock or acid rock are granite, rhyolite, obsidian and pitch stone. Subacid contain 60 to 65% silica. Example, cyanide and trachyte. Subbasic, which contain 55 to 60% silica. Example, diorite, andesite. Then the last category, basic rock, 45 to 55%. Example is basalt, gabbro, dolerite. So based on the amount of silica content, the rocks are classified into acid rock, subacid, subbasic and basic rock. So we must be able to tell or give example for acid rock and basic rock. It is a prominent question to be asked in the competitive exams as well as in the main theory examinations. So acid rocks example, basic rock example. So soils derived from the acid rocks have the different soil property. Example, acid soil, they have a derivation from the acid rock. Basic soil, derivation from the basic rock. So you must be able to give example for acid rock and basic rock. According to the chemical composition, the igneous rocks are divided into four main classes, which is based on the relative amount of acid and basic component. The acid component is silica or silicic acid, basic component is sodium, potassium, lime, magnesia and iron oxide. Basic rocks, these igneous rocks that contain large amount of basic components are called as the basic rock. Those rocks that contains large amount of acid components are called acid rocks. Those which are intermediate are called either subacid or subbasic. So far we have seen the acid rock, the first category is igneous rock. Igneous rock, I repeat again, igneous rocks are the first formed rocks from the molten magma, and we have seen the classification of igneous rocks. Now the second category of rock is called as sedimentary rocks or aqueous rocks. Aqua means water. So these are called sediments. Sediments are carried down by the action of water or wind, and they got deposited at a place and got solidification or consolidation. So that's why it is called as the sedimentary rocks. So these are the rocks which were formed by the sediments carried away by wind or water. So that's why it is called as the aqueous rocks. Aqueous rocks are those that have been formed through the agency or the action of water. So the water, when it flows, it carries large amount of sediments, and when there is a diversion in their path or when the gravity is reduced, they got deposited. Over the period of years, they got solidification and forms the rocks. These sedimentary rocks are formed from the sediments brought by water, hence they are called as the sedimentary rocks. The sediments are various types of substance: sand sized particle, silt sized particle, clay sized particle, organic debris. So sediments are various type of particle, and they differ in various sizes. So accordingly, when they consolidate, they produce different rock types. So sediments are various type and varies in size. So these sediments are combined together by the substances like silica, iron oxide, lime to form consolidated forms. So these are the materials, silica, iron oxide or lime. They give the cementing action. They consolidate the sediments carried by wind and water. So after a period of years, they got consolidated and converts into a rock. So many of these rocks are deposited in layers or strata, and hence they are also called as stratified layers. Say for example, when the sediments are carried down from the water, when there is heavy water flowing towards the sea, during its course of travel, the water during the rainy days carries so much of sediments, and whenever there is a reduction in velocity, they will settle down for the current year. During the next year, again one more strata will be added. During the next year, one more strata will be added. Like that, these rock occurs as a strata, stratified rocks, and hence it is called as the stratified rocks. Now we will see the classification of sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are classified into 6 groups: arenaceous, argillaceous, calcareous, siliceous, carbonaceous, and then precipitated rocks. Arenaceous rocks, argillaceous rocks, calcareous rocks, siliceous rocks, carbonaceous rocks, and precipitated salts. Now we will see one by one what is each type of rocks. Arenaceous rocks, these are rocks formed by the deposits of coarse grained particle, arenaceous means sand sized particle, above sand sized particle. So, example given, you see sandstone. So, sand sized particle, sand sized sediments, when they got deposited and forms consolidation, we get the arenaceous type of rocks formed. Example is sandstone. These rocks are composed mainly of siliceous material derived from the disintegration of older rocks. Example for arenaceous rock is sandstone, grit, conglomerate and breccia. Argillaceous, argillon means Greek word clay. So, these are the rocks, or these are the sedimentary rocks formed by the consolidation of clay sized particle. Example is clay, mudstone, mud is clay, shale, fuller's earth. All these are example for argillaceous sedimentary rocks. Calcareous rock, you are aware of calcareous soil derived from calcium carbonate rich material, limestone, calcium carbonate rich material, calcite, dolomite, all these are example of calcareous rocks. They are deposits or consolidation of carbonaceous material, calcium carbonate, magnesium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is limestone, dolomite is calcium magnesium carbonate. So, these are the rocks from which we produce cements. All these are example for calcareous rock, limestone, chalk, dolomite, marl, coral. Siliceous rocks, these are organic origin having been derived from parts of minute plants and animals like diatoms. So, siliceous material derived from the consolidation of siliceous typed material, minute plant and animal debris like diatoms. Example flint, chert. Then carbonaceous, formed from decomposition of vegetation under anaerobic condition. So, organic matter when it decompose, rich in organic matter more than 35%, 40%, 60%, 80%. Example is lignite. Nearby we have a Neyveli Lignite Corporation, and those days the forest under anaerobic condition they get decomposed and forms into a rock, consolidated rocks, sedimentary rocks. So, carbonaceous rocks are nothing but decomposition of organic matter, organic vegetation under anaerobic condition. Example is peat, lignite, coal, anthracite. Then salt, precipitated salt. So, oxides, carbonates, sulfates, phosphate, chlorides, these are the salts which got precipitated and they get consolidation and forms into rocks. So, such of those rocks were called as precipitated rocks. So, precipitated rocks consist mainly of deposits formed as rock masses either by cooling, evaporation or by chemical action. Example is oxides, carbonates, sulfate, phosphate and chlorides. So, this is in detail about the sedimentary rocks. Then metamorphic rock, the third one is metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rocks are those rocks which are formed from the igneous and sedimentary rocks by the action of temperature, pressure or both. So, these igneous and sedimentary rocks get metamorphized into metamorphic rock. The well known example of metamorphic rock is marble. So, this is about the basics about the rocks which is very important for the formation of soil. Soil is believed to be formed from the disintegration and decomposition of rocks and metals. Then the last part of this video, the composition of earth crust. So, earth crust, already I said earth is the planet in which all the living organism, plants and animals exist, because it is the one wherein we get air and water to exist. The earth crust is the uppermost part of the earth which is called as the crust. The earth crust is made up of the elements of various elements which are found in the periodic chart of elements. The mineral matter, we see mineral matter. Mineral is the example for everything. The pen what I look here is a mineral matter. The board you look here is a mineral matter, composed of the whole universe is nothing but atoms and minerals, mineral matter, combination of atoms. So minerals are nothing but combination of elements, atoms then elements. Example I said silica, hematite, magnetite, geothite, limonite, all these are example for minerals. So everything, both living and non-living matter is made up of the minerals. So in the earth crust we come across all the elements what you can find in the periodic chart. So out of 108 elements listed in the periodic chart, 8 elements are found to be abundant and they constitute about 98.6% of the earth crust. So in the earth crust about almost 99% are constituted by the 8 dominant element. Non-metallic element, 3/4 of the earth crust are formed by non-metallic element, example oxygen and silica. Oxygen 46% and silica 27.72%. Metallic ions, they constitute 1/4 of the earth crust and the ions are alumina 8.13, iron 5%, calcium 3.63%, sodium 2.83%, potassium 2.59%, magnesium 2.09%. So these 8 elements, that is oxygen, silica, alumina 3, iron 4, calcium 5, sodium 6, potassium 7, magnesium 8, all these 8 elements they constitute 98% of the earth crust, major composition of the elements. These elements combines in various combination to forms various minerals. Example silica SiO2, iron oxide Fe2O3, then calcium carbonate, lime CaCO3, gypsum CaSO4, secondary minerals. So these elements they will be present in the molten magma. So when the molten magma erupt, according to the natural affinity, these elements combines and forms into various minerals, and these minerals are present in the rocks when they got solidified, and these rocks on weathering process releases various elements. These elements are taken by the plants for its growth and productivity of crops. So we eat all the crops from which we derive the elements. So our body is also made up of elements, carbohydrate, protein, fat, all these are nothing but made up of just elements. So all the living and non-living matter are made up of chemical elements. So earth crust is composed of majority of these elements. So with this I will conclude this video lecture on introduction about rocks, the classification, composition of rocks, and then definition of the soil, all these basic things. Thank you very much.